Cool. Yo, uh, today we're going to be talking about how you're building habits like an idiot. Just a quick tangent, bro. It's gotten so cold like the past 2 days, and it's not even like consistent cold. It's like a thing of morning freezing, middle of the day it gets pretty warm, and then like night it's freezing again, ice cold. I'm wearing two layers. I'm wearing a okay three technically, but I'm wearing a hoodie and a gown over it. It is freezing. I've switched to my winter socks. I don't know whether you guys know what winter socks are. Maybe, but it's like just thicker socks. Like I've switched socks. Like this is actually we're in winter now. But yeah, today we're gonna be talking that out of the way. Today we're gonna be talking about why you are building habits like an idiot. Now, most people build habits pretty absent-mindedly, which is a bad thing, but it's also a weakness that we tend to have, and that how you tend to spiral into things that you didn't really want to spiral into. So I'm gonna go over things like absent spending, absent eating, and waking up. These are all like personal examples of how I personally have created habits like an idiot. Now, what do I mean by you're creating habits like an idiot? What I mean is that we're all aware that of how, at least the basics of how habits are built, right? We're all aware that when you do something multiple times, you're more likely to do it again. You know, the more you do something, the more you're likely to do it. So if I started like punching the wall every time I got mad, then I'm more likely to punch the wall next time. I punch it once, and then I'll punch it again the next time I get mad, and then I'll punch it again the next time I get mad, and now I have a habit of when I get mad, I punch the wall, right? If I don't know, do three skips before knocking on doors, then the first time I do it, it'll be like a once off. But then the second time I do it, now I'm starting to create the habit. And then it'll end up being a thing of I feel weird if I don't do the three skips before knocking on doors, right? So but we all know how habits work, and you aren't maximizing that, and even worse, you and me, we're all letting it detriment us, right? Because there's certain actions that it's better to just not do, and we know which actions it's better to just not do because we know our habits are formed, right? So it's how people get addicted. They'll try something once in a certain context, and they'll try it again well, not even try anymore, but they'll do it again in that context, and that's how they spiral into addiction, right? If your friends are like, oh yeah, you want to try weed, I don't know, you guys probably don't know, I'm completely against weed. um it's lame, you know it makes you lame, it smells bad. There's medical uses for it. There's medical uses for basically every drug. Doesn't mean that I approve of its recreational use. So, if you're wondering, that's my opinion on weed. But you've never tried weed before. Your friend's like, yeah, you want to try. You know that it can be addictive. It's drugs. But you're like, oh, who cares? You smoke weed. It's all fun and games the first time. But then you're in the situation again where you offered, and then you try it again. And then it now just becomes a thing of every time you're hanging out with your friends because they're already addicted. Every time you're hanging out with them, you're also smoking, and then boom, in no time you now feel weird if you're not smoking when you're with them. You're addicted. I mean, hell, it happened at my high school, and like other, I can imagine it's like the new thing, like vaping, right? Where you try it once. Me personally, I've never tried it, but someone will try it once, and the context within which they tried is a context that will repeat itself, right? It'll probably be a thing of their friends are vaping, they're going in a circle or something, and then now since they've tried it before, they'll feel more comfortable trying it again, and then the second they do it the second time, it'll just become part of their rotation. It's part of the things that they do when they're with their friends, absently just puffing, right? And then it becomes weird when they stop puff if they're trying to stop puffing, because now since it's a habit of puffing, they feel that they're not doing it. And it's just one of those things where you could have easily avoided it by not doing it in the first place, because you know how habits are formed. The first time you do it, the more likely you're going to do it again, right? So there's lots of things that you just do that you can avoid by just not doing in the first place? I know it seems like simple advice, but like lots of the important stuff are. So I'm gonna give my examples, right? Absent spending. I got a, I like had accidentally created a huge problem with it. At some point, I was on your Ubers. Oh my, and I'm not talking about transport Uber. I'm talking about Uber Eats. I created a problem, like a horrible habit when it came to Uber Eats because Uber Eats is expensive. And creating a habit of Uber Eats is not conducive to just like good money. Good money, it's bad for calories because you just be ordering out food when you're trying to cut and stuff. And it puts like the option in your mind. Like at some point, I was ordering multiple times a week, like 3 times a week, and it'll be like on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, just ordering food, and it'll be like I'm just spending 300 rand a day because it's not even. At some points, I had an issue where I was like ordering twice a day. Like I get my meal and my dessert, same, two different orders. I know the what I was ordering was escalating at some point. So at some point I'd order Krispy Kreme, and it's like if I'm already spending more in terms of ordering, I'd be like, oh, okay, instead of three, I might order six. And then before it kind of worked because it'd be like I'd eat three the one day and then I'd eat the other three the next day. But then like it escalated. Then the one time I just ate all six, and then that just became the default of me just ordering, and then I'd eat all six when I'd order the Krispy Kreme. And you can probably guess that's an issue. Like you can't be eating. I mean, you can technically, and I was still cutting at the time, but like but not really. It like slowed down my cut a lot, and just it's just a bad habit because it's expensive. And then it just became a habit that would always chow money. I'd always be like 1K less because I'm ordering Uber Eats. And it's a habit that very much could have just been avoided by not doing it in the first place. I mean, heck, this year, one that I caught early because I was aware, but it's like I had gotten into the small habit. It's not small, but I'd gotten into the habit of like ordering pizza, and pizza is more expensive than other things. So it'd be like a thing of minimum 200 just for the pizza, right? And I caught that early of being like, oh no, pizza, this is not something. I caught it early that I was creating a bad habit, and that was only because I was aware. I was keeping myself extra aware that some things are that every action you take can be habit forming, and there's things that is easier to just not do, or if you catch early, you can avoid it. Same thing with I got into a habit of buying food from my campus, and the issue with food from there is that it's expensive. One, it's expensive, and also I don't know what's in it. And the issue is that obviously if you're cutting and you don't know how much oil they're putting in the food, how much of what they're putting in stuff, what brand they're using, you don't really have you have a vague gauge, but it's not as good as it could be. And then the bigger issue is that it's stupidly expensive. I'm talking like 10, 10 rand chocolate, like a 13 rand chocolate is like 20 rand there. You're buying, it's ridiculous. But obviously that's becoming an issue because you're just ordering from the top, you're spending like 70 rand a day, because you at school all the time. So you at school like 5 days a week. So it's like you're spending 350 a week when you really don't need to. Like if I'm hungry, I should just bring food or just like not, not eat since I'm cutting anyway. But like if I know that I'm going to be hungry during the school day and I'm like, I can incorporate it into the calories, it's more conducive to just make the food at home and bring it there. Free, you can track it, all that. But the point is that happened absently. It was just a thing of I did it once, I did it the next day, and then it just became a thing of something I'll do, right? It's like I think if I felt hungry the one day, no, it wasn't even hungry. It was like I knew that watching my friends eat would make me hungry. So then to avoid that, I bought the food. And then the thing is, my friends, they were eating like every day, not even from the place. Some of them would, but like some of them would just bring lunch boxes. But me, who didn't want to bring a lunchbox, it's just the thing of I ended up feeling awkward just existing there, which I really shouldn't have. ended up just buying the food and being in the cycle of spending money where I really didn't need to be spending money. Like I've lost a lot of money from just creating bad habits. Like you do not, the amount of monetary value that that has just washed away from me creating, not like checking when I'm creating a bad habit, is actually tear inducing. But yeah, and then chocolates. Like there was another habit that I accident. All of these habits are accidental for me because it's like one of those, you do it once and you think that that'll be the only time you'll do it, and then you'll do it. Then you do it again because the the circumstances with which the habits happened is repeatable. Now, if you want me to go into how all that works, how habits become repeatable and all the, not the steps, but the some of the mechanisms that lead to habits being created work, kind of, I might make a video on it. I'm not going to make any promises though. But yeah, so another one was when um, basically the one day I stopped by, there's like a store near my place, and I stopped by there to fetch something, and then I bought myself like chocolate. I bought myself Tim Tams like on the way out to just be like, oh, I'll have it. I like Tim Tams, they taste good, all that. And then I came back the next day because I wanted Tim Tams again, right? Well, I think I needed something else, but then I still got Tim Tams again. And then it just became a habit of like when I'm driving home, I'd stop by the place to get Tim Tams or just like sweet things, which obviously is like both expensive and bad for my overall goals. But since I now had created the habit, it was just part of my rhythm. Like whenever I'm at the store, I just get myself Tim Tams. And the issue became not even me directly going to the store, but more just whenever I was there for anything, I'd just like add Tams onto like my shopping list, right? Regardless of when I was last there. It could be a thing of I was there. Okay, maybe not as extreme as like, oh, I was there earlier today, but like I was there yesterday and I'm still getting Tim Tams because like I finished the ones already. It was an actual issue, and all because I wasn't keeping track of my habits. I was absently creating habits because I wasn't cognizant of how easily they can form. And then another one, absent eating. Uh, this is one that most people do. I think that's the most, I would say it's the most common habits that people have, just absent eating. Because depending on your situation, if you have very easily accessible food, then it's very easy to just be absently eating it, right? The prime example is the small things in the kitchen, right? People who just eat whatever small thing is just open in the kitchen. So sometimes it's like chips, an open packet of chips. Sometimes it's usually chips, but sometimes it'll be like nuts or I don't know, juice or something, depending on what your situation is. But it'll just be an absent habit that you do once and then it's accessible enough that and the circumstances are replicatable enough that it'll just happen again, right? If you go to the kitchen to fetch, um, I don't know, like to check for food or something, like I know one thing that I sometimes do is that I go just to look in the cupboards to see if it's changed, if there's food, like if there's something nice. And sometimes when there's nice things in the house, I'll go there to just stare a bit and then like talk myself into just getting something else or just going back to my room, right? But if you get into the habit of every time you're in the kitchen, you take a piece of the one of a bit of the open chips, right? There's an open chips packet, then it's just a thing of every time you're there, regardless of whether you actually feel like the chips or not, you're just gonna make that pass by wherever it is and have some, right? It's the same thing that happens where some people have a cookie jar and whenever they're in the kitchen, they just grab a cookie. Whether they feel like the cookie or not themselves, because the jar is there and like readily accessible, and they've already formed the habit of every time they're in the kitchen, they're gonna grab a cookie. They've absolutely formed that habit because they weren't paying attention. They weren't like, yo, let me just not do this because it's gonna, get me fat, just always eating the cookies and stuff. And then Waking up, yeah, waking up is it's also one of the more common, I think, habits that are formed. Where the most common like iteration of it is just like pressing the snooze button. You know, if you're just always pressing the snooze button, then you'll do it absently. You know that you do it once because you're actually tired, and you do it again because you're slightly tired, and then it just becomes a thing that you do, even though ideally you just wake up when the alarm happens, right? Like that happened to me, and I tried to change it by moving my alarm away from myself, and I accidentally formed another habit the one day where I would switch off the alarm and go back to bed. You know, I'd switch off the alarm, go back to bed, and I tried multiple times to fix it. Given this is still something that I'm trying to fix, right? I tried multiple times to fix it. You know, tried maybe, oh, I get into bed, but then since I scroll, maybe the blue light will wake me up. I fall asleep with my phone in hand. Oh, I wear all my clothes so that, like, I'm trying a lot. I'm still trying because it's a habit that I need to get rid of. But like that was a habit that was formed. Like the level of absent-mindedness, I did not expect that to become a habit at all. It was just that one morning, I think I left the alarm on by accident or something like that, and I switched it off, and then went back into bed with the idea of, well, I guess I'm already awake, might as well. And then I fell asleep, and it created the habit of just like absent-mindedly, if I just wake up and I don't have particularly anything to do, like anything pressing, I'll just go switch it off, go get back into bed with the idea of, oh, you know, I'm just getting warm again. And then I'll fall asleep, you know? So that's, you don't want to form absent habits like, you don't want to form habits like an idiot, because if you form habits like an idiot, all your habits will be ones that you don't want, right? No one's ever formed a good habit by accident. Every good habit that you form is one that you form on purpose. Studying, that's a habit because no one wants to study at first. You know, that's a habit that you form on purpose of just, oh, when I get to my room between this time and this time, that's when the studying time is. You know, it'll be hard at first, and after a while, that's just how you do it. Um, I don't know. What's a good habit? Exercise. You know, around this time, it's time for exercise. So on the way back home, instead of heading back home, you know, if you weren't paying attention, you'll just end up at the gym because that's where you go after school. Um, Maybe you like talking to the teacher after classes to like get extra insight. If you're not paying attention, you know, others, they'll walk to a specific place, they'll walk to their normal hangout spot. You'll go to the teacher even if you yourself don't have a question, because you're in the habit of going to the teacher. It's just what you're predisposed to do, right? So if you don't form habits intentionally, then the habits that will be formed for you will be all instant gratification based, which isn't good for you, because that's not what you want. You don't want your essential, you don't want your habits to just be pure instant gratification. Like there's some that is fine, it doesn't really matter, but like you need more of your habits to be intentional and things that will actually push you forward rather than just things that you did because it felt good. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed, leave a like. If you have something to say, leave a comment. Share the video with your cat, iguana, axolotl, and grandma. Um, what else? There was something else. Oh yeah, if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. You know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.